I would like to start the meeting of the Ordinance Committee today on February 28th at 6:31 p.m. Present with us are Councilor Jenny Rivera, Councilor David Bartley, and online we have Councilor Linda Vacan, myself, Israel Rivera, and in council chambers we have Councilor Carmen OCASIO. I entertain a motion to take up item 1. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, give me one sec. Jeff, do I have to read in the online piece because Councilor Vacan is online?
Yeah, I actually just printed it out, so I'm going to bring it out to you in a second.
Awesome, thank you.
This one is a request for an extension, so all of that would have been done the first time it came through. Yeah, because an extension, all of those would still go with it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Motion to take a roll call vote that for the purpose of this meeting would be applicable to all motions to remove an item from the table, place items on the table, package items, open or close a public hearing, or suspend the rules unless there is an objection.
So you want a motion for that?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So going back to the motion,
And I'll make a motion to receive the minutes of February 7th. They look good to me.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll make a motion to take number 2 off the table and open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 2 is a special permit application extension for ACMJ Incorporated to build and operate a marijuana cultivation and processing establishment at 532 Main Street. I believe that is Ezra, or is it Steven? Who do we have from ACMJ?
I can't speak on that if Steve's not here. I'm not sure Steve's here. This is Ezra Parzybach of Northampton, Massachusetts, and I'm here to assist ACMJ if necessary. But this is actually just requesting an extension of their currently, granted special permit. They're at the 2-year mark. They are moving forward, but they needed to get an extension.
Any questions? Oh, I see Mr. Fontana has his hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to just let you know that I am here if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone on the committee?
I'd love to just hear them walk us through it. Why are you asking for this extension to your special permit?
Counselor Megan McGrath-Smith
Sorry.
has a great question. No worries. Let's go. We're here. Mr. Fontana, or as Mr. Parzybach, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, please let me know. If not, then correct me anytime. Can you answer the question if possible?
I'm happy to take it. So we have just had some trouble finding financing for this project. And due to that fact, we had to kind of change the footprint of it. We had to shrink it down a little bit so we could afford what we're trying to do. And we are actually just about to submit our first building permit application. We have plenty of supporting documents that I'm happy to share with anyone on the committee or the council. We have architectural drawings and some also drawings from a mechanical engineer. But we are pending this extension. We are probably going to submit our building permit application, first of several, I imagine, within probably, at least before the end of March.
This is the former Barclays Furniture Building, yes?
That's correct.
No, go ahead. You're still your turn. You have the floor. Yeah, you asked him a question, so you got a little bit of back and forth there.
Yes. Okay. I guess my next question is, well, you said you needed to shrink the size. Can you walk us through what you were originally planning and what you are now planning and why the change has been made?
And Mr. Fontana, if I may, real quick, the only reason why the walkthrough is because some of the counselors are new to this committee, and for some of them, a lot of this information is fairly new. So, although for you all and for myself and some of us that are been on the council, this is could be a refresher. For some of us, this is actually new information.
No problem. I'm happy to share. So we're on the second floor. We actually have 1/3 of the second floor. We have 13,000 square feet out of 40,000. So Barclay Furniture occupied the other 2/3 of the second floor, which was another 27,000 square feet. They have since vacated. Our suite is separate from that. We're 13,000 square feet. We originally wanted to fill that space out with, a series of probably a dozen different rooms. But the cost for that was over $1 million, and we were not able to raise that kind of capital. So we had to shrink the plan down to about 1/3 of its original size. And again, I'm happy to provide all our drawings that will provide, all the details involved in the plan.
If I may interject as well, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer that it's shrunk down. So typically, if you have a special permit, it has been approved for the floor plan, and then you actually shrink it down by altering that plan, then it would require a new review. In this case, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but shrinking, it's more of like phase 1 and phase 2. So the full phased out size would be the full size. By shrinking down, it just means that there's no change in the actual design and entire approval of the special permit. It's just that they're going to start by building out a smaller portion. It's what I call like phase 1 of the full project.
So, and thank you for interjecting. I was allowing for Councilor McGrath-Smith to finish her question, but my question was pertaining to that piece particularly, because if we're changing the schematics of the way things are, that's changing the special permit. That means that you would have to go through a whole new process. So I think for me, other counselors can weigh in and see how they opine, but for me, it would be important to see what the drawings are. If you did alter it, 1/3 of what it was is a significant size. So I'm just interested in seeing the plans. I see Councilor Vacan's hands raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just would like to add that we have had other projects come in that came in initially as phased projects. So from my perspective, as long as they are not changing their plan, they're just simply implementing a portion of it, but they are not changing what they have already submitted that was approved, that would be acceptable as a delay and a phase, and it would allow them, if they get the financing, then to do, say, another 1/3, and down the road, if they were able to do another 1/3. If they were anticipating to change the layout and how they would be utilizing the space, then from my perspective, I would view it differently. But if nothing will be changing other than we're not using the other 2/3, I think they would be covered under the extension from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilor Vacan. I agree. I agree too as well. If it is that they're just going to continue the same space, utilization of space as they originally intended, and they're going to go out in phases to continue to build out, then that's not altering the original plan. But if they're changing the way the space is being utilized, that is a different plan. And that is not a plan that we approved. So I think...
Right. So if I could just follow up on my question, I would just ask if they are intending to build out the first third as the plans have already been submitted
May I?
to the applicant. Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. This is just about the starting point. The ultimate plan remains the same.
Okay. Thank you.
So to clarify, so the starting phase 1 is still gonna look the same as it was, as we originally presented? Or as you guys originally presented?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Counselor McGrath Smith.
Can you just walk us through how the current plan is different from the original? When you say this is phase 1, what part of that initial plan is now being done as the first third?
Sure. We simply omitted 2 of the rooms that we plan to build. Not omitted, but kind of, delaying the construction and fit out of those 2 rooms. That's all.
Yeah, if I could just further explain that. If you picture a farm that's inside, and that farm is made up of 3 rooms, an original plan would be, we're gonna start growing plants in 3 rooms. This plan is, we are gonna start growing, but we're just gonna start growing in 1 room. So the way the plan is different is that 2 of those rooms will not be fully built out. It'll just be the 1 room. And when we say fully built out, the reason why it costs so much is you have lighting, you have HVAC, you have ducting and paneling and a lot of expensive materials in each room that's mimicked or, that's repeated. So if you have enough budget to just do 1 room, you start 1 room. When you acquire a new, more revenue, you get the 2nd room and then the 3rd room operating. So that's why you can have an unchanged plan with 3 rooms that it's approved as a special permit, but you phase it in by starting the 1st room first. And that's what they're doing.
Counselor McGrath Smith for a 3rd time.
And does that mean that those other 2 rooms will not be used at all, or will they have a different use? I know that across the Commonwealth and specifically in Holyoke, we've been talking about concerns around marijuana cultivation and safety. I'm wondering about what those 2 other rooms will be used for while you delay, for example, ducting out or having ventilation in those spaces. Will they still be used for some purpose, or will they not be used?
They will be unused except for, we will slowly be building them out and fitting them out. But no other purpose, no.
Anyone else? Are you all set?
Yeah.
Councilor Bartley?
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thanks for your investment, and I'm certainly going to support this. My only requirement is going to be that you put your corporation in good standing with the Commonwealth. So, when we motion, I'm going to make that as a condition prior to our vote next week to extend it. So your last annual report was in 22, so that's a pretty low hurdle. If you guys would just bring it up to speed, that would be helpful as far as I'm concerned. And then in terms of the special permit extension, that's what it's here for. This is fairly pro forma, and I'm hopeful, and I voted for this the first time. I expect this to be a success. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Anyone else? I think the only question I think I have as a follow-up is just how long of an extension are we saying?
1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
So 1 year. Is that what we, to Counselor Bartley, is that what we have as a regular standard, or?
Yeah, that's state law.
Okay, perfect.
So, state law, right.
There you go. All right, then. So then, anyone else?
Just put it out to the public, you know.
Anyone in the, Counselor Bacon?
No, I'll wait till after the public.
Anyone else in the public?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Give me 1 second. Counselor Bacon, I think, has one other thing.
Oh, I was only going to offer the motion to close the public hearing.
No
if there
worries.
was no one from
So
the
you know what?
public.
Counselor Bartley has it, and then you can possibly second it.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm going to make a motion that we approve the extension of the special permit, subject to, with just the one minor condition that they make their corporate entity current with the Commonwealth.
Do I hear-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, roll call.
Oh, roll.
Can I offer
Thank you.
an amendment that we receive drawings that they said they would send?
We have them.
Yeah,
do?
we should have
We
them.
have them.
Jeff should have them.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't see it in the packet.
No, it wasn't in the packets. I would. So there's a piece here where I kind of want them to send any amended drawings because it sounded like they have some new drawings.
Yeah.
So I kind of am in favor of this amendment. I'm not going to lie.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Just,
Counselor
and we could have a motion
Bartley.
to consider and do the whole thing, but just through the chair, Mr. Fontana, how fast can you send the amended drawings to Jeff?
Are there?
I could do it tonight.
Perfect, okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. So then you want to make the amendment official then?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to amend the motion so that the vote is contingent also on the drawings being provided to council.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote. Counselor Bacon?
Yes.
Counselor McGrath Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley?
yes.
Counselor Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Counselor Israel Rivera? Yes. 5 yeas.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank
in.
you for your time.
Thank you, counselors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make a motion to take number 3 off the table and open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 3 was filed by Counselor Maldonado Velez. Zoning ordinance change proposal to allow cannabis business beyond the IG zone and allow priority for social equity applicants and those negatively impacted by war on drugs. Counselor Maldonado Velez is no longer with us. I put this on the agenda for 2 reasons. One, to get it through, and then the other one is to have the conversation about expanding or what it's like, what it would look like to expand or to move the cannabis outside of IG. What the conversation would look like. So it kind of makes sense to have a conversation around it and to hear the public too as well. If there's anyone in the public that would like to speak up with either in favor or against. And any counselors that want to speak up too as well can feel free to let me know. Counselor Bartley.
I'll weigh in, but I'd rather hear from the public first, one way or the other, then I'll certainly weigh in with my opinion.
Well, so then anyone in the public online? Anyone in person? Counselor Bartley.
Okay, and I won't, I'll, just in case somebody jumps on the call, I don't want to close the public hearing quite yet, but in my opinion, I would oppose this, and I think that the ordinance, the way we set it up a number of years ago, has proved very insightful and very effective. And with that being said, I don't think I need to go through the history. I also want to point out that the industry doesn't seem to be knocking at the doors as it once was. And I kind of like having and there's still, and if they do come back strong. Perhaps there'll be another wave of applicants. There's still ample space in the areas that are zoned IG. And if the chair would recall, we did have one facility where we changed the zone, and that was on Lyman Street. And that was, it made sense. It wasn't a spot zone thing. And we had, crying out loud, we must have 30 neighbors come in and support that. So that was a one time where that facility is an ongoing concern, and we're happy to see them here in Holyoke. But for me, I think that again, if we're not going to talk history. That's basically my opinion. I think we should let it be as it is. If, for example, if it gets to be really a tight squeeze in IG, we do have the opportunity to change a zone, so because we've proven we did that, and I certainly would look to helping the industry grow in other zones if perhaps it was the demand was there. But right now, I don't think that's the case. So consequently, I would oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Anyone else? Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess there's just a couple things I put forth for consideration. One is that we have seen some of the businesses closing in Northampton. And my concern is that for the people who have fairly recently opened and seem to be doing okay, I guess I wouldn't want to bring competition to them when they're mostly in their first 3 years of getting their feet under them. So I would be hesitant to I don't want to see what happened in Northampton happen here, is I guess what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. Councilor McGrath-Smith.
In reviewing the ordinance, I was struck by there's a difference between a marijuana manufacturing establishment versus a medical marijuana dispensary, a recreational marijuana retail establishment, a marijuana testing facility. Like, there's different categories here, and we all lumped them together into it can only be in the general industrial zone, and that's not what towns around us did. So, like, I know Northampton has been mentioned, and I think that is one area that I might be interested in pursuing. That I understand why you would want a manufacturing establishment to be in an industrial zone, but there may be a case to be made for dispensaries or for facilities that are not involving manufacturing to potentially expand to other sections of the city if there was a desire to do so. We put them all as in one. We could have made other choices.
Thank you, Councilor McGrath-Smith. Anyone else? Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. So I would just point out that the competition that suffered in Northampton is the retail side of the business. And I really think if we're trying to develop business downtown, and we've had the folks that have come in and very recently embraced that and are working to build that we would be jumping ahead of ourselves to be expanding the zone right now. I'm not saying it's forever a bad idea, but I think right now it would be perhaps more helpful to the current businesses to let them, as I said, the first 3 to 5 years of a new business are the high failure rate years. And so if we can let them get stable, then I think we could better make a better decision about any zoning changes. I think the success of this has been to promote business development downtown, which has been one of the top goals in the city recently. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Attorney Bissonnette, but real quick, because I'm chair, I try to take the practice of trying to say the least that I can and allow for everyone else to speak. but I'm going to take a moment to kind of speak right now, real quick. So, originally, I would say the plan kind of made sense, right? Keep them all in IG zone. It's a zone that at one time was an industrial haven, right? It was up and coming. It was the place to be. And then after the Industrial Revolution died down, a variety of industries left out, and then we were left with just empty buildings. So in the beginning, with the intention of keeping them all in one area, benefited us as a city, right? Because they're kind of helping us improve buildings that would probably more than likely never ever be bought or improved. This is an influx of money that is helping us get to a certain point where now you see Ray Street, and it's a significant street where there's a lot of people frequenting it. And as well as the little area where Fame is and where Holyoke Cannabis and Holyoke Canna Provisions, that's all live and popping, right? I think, though, it's already stressed. We're at a point now where all the businesses are competing with each other and nobody's thriving. They're price gouging each other. And in speaking with the businesses that are down there, it would benefit them for the expansion because we can't stop applications from coming in. And if applications continue to come in, more business will continue to be placed in the same area, saturating the area and making the competition fight each other. That is the main piece, right? And if we're talking about developing downtown, we're already in that process. It's not just cannabis downtown anymore. We have a variety of small businesses opening up all throughout downtown. That's not anymore, I think, the challenge for us. I think right now where we're looking at is developing places like Kmart Plaza, developing places like the plaza over there across from where Barnes and Nobles is at, where the old that restaurant was back then. These places are right next to the highway that would allow people that are coming from across different cities and different places to come in and stop and shop there if they chose to. It's a retail district, it's a retail area. Totally makes sense. Not asking it to putting it on Northampton Street. I'm asking that it get expanded to a place that kind of makes sense and allows for businesses that are downtown to breathe. Because right now they're all being smothered amongst each other. There's another one that is just coming in on Main Street that is going to open. They have a huge grand opening on March 2nd, and it sounds like they have investors that have significant amount of money behind them. So this impacts smaller businesses like Boston Bud. That's a family-owned business. They struggle. The owner works there himself as a staff member. It's a different concept. For him to breathe, we need to open this up. That's just that's just the economic piece. I think for me, the cultural piece, though, it's just that continuing to have this housed in our most poorest communities is not making any benefits, and especially with the way that the community impact dollars or definition has now all of a sudden changed and has been altered, and this will no longer be a benefit for these communities to be able to uplift them, right? We have to go back to the plan and reevaluate how we're doing this, because we have to share this responsibility of having these industries that can influence a community positively or negatively, depending on what side of the spectrum you stand, because there are people that are very religious in these communities and do not want them there. So there's a little bit of everything here, and for me, the entertaining of the potential of opening certain spots that are retail districts and allowing them to come in wouldn't hurt cannabis business, but only help bring more people to the mall, right? Bring more people to the area in Kmart Plaza, if that's the case, to come shopping there, because people are going to go to those locations. But I'll get off my pedestal or whatever podium I'm on and rant, and I'll allow Attorney Bissonnette to expand and maybe correct me wherever I'm wrong.
Mr. Chairman, you're never wrong. I learned that from Councilor Bartlett. The chair is never wrong.
There you go.
A couple of points I would like to make, and if I can, touch on the social equity piece of this order for just a second. I would remind you that regardless of what zone you might cite a facility in, under your marijuana ordinance, any use of cannabis must acquire a special permit from the city council, no matter where it is. So you would, in effect, have final say over any specific proposal, regardless of where in the city it might be proposed. Secondary to that, one of the things that Holyoke is really probably very happy to have avoided is all the litigation over the selection of those individuals or businesses to receive the initial cannabis licenses. There were limits in some situations where cities would only allow 4, 5, 6 licenses. That led to the conviction of an executive officer for accepting bribes, for the solicitation of a selection committee member for a bribe. Lots and lots of litigation, both civil and criminal, over the selection process, some by lottery, some by commission. Holyoke avoided all of that noise, if you will, by simply saying, if you want in, come in, we'll hear you. If you fit the criteria for a special permit, you'll get one. And so through that, you saw the influx of 72 applications come in, unheard of throughout the Commonwealth, second only to Boston. I think the council approved somewhere on the order of 35 or 40 special permits. Some have continued throughout the license process. Some are in the midst of being licensed. Some are now up for renewal. So it's been around, it's become established a little bit in Holyoke, unlike some other places. And so with social equity, there really isn't much Holyoke could give to those social equity applicants because it's already an invitation to come in. And there's no funding available on the local level to kind of sweeten the pot to come in. Certainly the cooperation is there. You've seen several small businesses building sweat equity down by the bridge, and lots of small businesses are starting to percolate in the cannabis industry. So I think that's a good sign that there's positive action happening here. I think you're going to hear more information fairly soon with regard to some of the other cannabis issues, but I think Holyoke's headed in the right direction. The city council still has control, although it's not the onslaught that you saw 3 years ago. And I think you're well suited for the long run in keeping this industry. We will await the state to provide us with the ordinances they'd like to see us as cities adopt for both impact fees and especially for social ordinance, social equity, and for business development on the social equity front. And we'll see if that's going to be accompanied by some grant money to help some of these folks start up. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Bissonnette. I'm going to recognize Councilor Bartley and then Councilor McGrath-Smith. I just have one point on the social equity piece. I think with the social equity piece, I think we kind of missed the piece on that when we were enacting the legislation in the first place. Other communities have taken a piece of the pie and allotted it specifically to social equity before it actually goes into the general coffers. So in other communities, I guess what I'm saying is they'll take maybe 1 to 2% of the revenue of taxes from cannabis industry in general and dedicate it specifically to social equity initiatives. That saves from having to just out of nowhere look for funding to provide these social equity businesses the support needed in trying to succeed or move forward. That was not put in place back then, so all the money that comes from the revenue now just goes into the general budget and it's already being spent. But Councilor Bartley.
Well, I already spoke, so why don't you have her Megan go first?
I think she spoke too as well, or no?
Well, ladies go first.
Thank you for being a gentleman. Councilor McGrath-Smith.
So we can say ladies.
A gentleman. Thank you. So my question was around timeline. I know that you were alluding to the issue currently that we're navigating around impact fees. And I can speak to, when we were at the Mass Municipal Association conference and we were in the session around what was happening around ordinance and funding, and right away someone brought up the settlement that happened recently in January with Caroline's Cannabis and Uxbridge, where the town settled. And I was reading up on that issue around when the state, I understand, like, we were trying to move this forward, right? And I appreciate sometimes you have to jump in and start moving, but because towns started to levy the impact fees before there was a lot of clear guidance on what was expected around them, I know that there's likely to be issues moving forward. And I have been reaching out for some information, and I'm planning to put an order in soon, asking for a clear sense of what impact fees we've leveraged and where they have been spent and what the rationales have been. Because a lot of the issue with the Caroline's cannabis case was that they couldn't justify the impact. You had to name, this was impacted, that's why we put this money there, versus the feeling that it could just go into the general fund and be spent to mitigate other things elsewhere. That it really has to be, it's an impact fee, it has to be based on a direct impact that you are responding to. But towns were collecting the impact fees before there could have really been clear impacts, because the industry had just started, right? So I'm going to be interested to see how this plays out for us in Holyoke as we drill down and how we've used those impact fees so far. You know, have we documented correctly how we've spent them? How we collected have we named clear, impacts and rationalized why we used those fees the way that we did? And I'm wondering, from your perspective, Attorney Bissonnette, what you think the timeline is on getting more information on what's going to happen to give us that clarity.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you may. My bad.
As everybody's pretty aware, the cannabis industry really exerted great pressure to get this impact fee totally removed. That didn't happen, but in place of it, instead of no rules, now there are incredible strictures on how to recoup impact fees. And now it's after the fact. So you would have to invoice and bill to a particular specific company for their specific impact fee and collect it after the fact. They could contest it via the Cannabis Control Commission. Most communities are looking at just waiving the fee and waiving the host community agreement, the HCAs that underlie and create all of these impact fees. So all of that is ongoing. We don't have a final draft of impact fee guidelines yet for proposed ordinances. We expect that shortly to go to the hearing stage. God willing, the Cannabis Control Commission will get their internal stuff together and become functioning as a pretty good regulatory body, and hopefully can help cities and towns cope with these changes. Holyoke has collected somewhere on the order of $5 million in impact fees since the outset. So we are particularly interested in how other communities have resolved this. We were not happy with the settlement in Uxbridge. We were not happy with Boston refunding everything. And we've taken the position and are in negotiations with all of those who have paid impact fees. The mayor will have some news to announce on that front shortly. I don't want to characterize it, but I think, again, Holyoke is moving in the right direction on this front, and I think we'll have some good news shortly. With regard to what Holyoke will be doing in the future, I think it's fair to say that all cannabis operators renewing their licenses or seeking new licenses from the state will seek and be given a waiver from host community agreements, which will basically end the impact fee issue. And I think that's where we're going to wind up by the beginning of the next fiscal year. Hope that covers it, Meg. And that's our cannabis assistant in the background chiming in with his research.
Thank you. Councilor Bartley.
All right, so, I hope, I'm going to respond to just about everything was said, but those are all tough speakers to follow. So and you can take it or leave it however you want to do this. Hopefully some of the information is going to provide some insight as to what we did when we created this ordinance. So first off, when we argue that we want to expand to other zones and we want to have cannabis facilities, whatever, under whatever manufacturing, whatever they are, elsewhere, one of the reasons why we put in the IG was because we wanted to attract downtown business. In my opinion, if we start to expand to other zones, way out to West Holyoke, or Kmart Plaza, or up by the mall, or maybe way out to Smith's Ferry, I think your consumers, I think your business people are not going to go downtown anymore. I don't think they're going to be helped by that. I think they're going to be strangled, and they're going to wither and die. Regarding the cultural stuff, I'm very interested in that perspective, and we did talk about that quite a bit when we created the ordinance in 2016, of which I was on this committee with Linda and Kevin, and there's two others, I'm blanking it right this second, I think Nelson. The fact is that we have public hearings on all of these things. So the public is, and we're going to get the special permit piece in a second, and I'll have a comment on that. But we have public hearings, and I'll stand corrected if necessary, but I don't remember one person, religious or anywhere, coming in saying, I'm opposed to it. Now, I was here on ordinance for all those, for the early rush, as Attorney Bissonette pointed out. I know there was another rush in the last couple of years, but I didn't have not one single person. So if you're going to make an argument that there are people that are opposed to it, that's fine. But there's no evidence coming up to the railing of one person opposing cannabis in the IG zone. I don't have one. Third of all, special permits. Let me talk about that for a second, Mr. Chairman. You heard Attorney Bissonette talk about how, if I can just paraphrase it, just how important it is that city council's involved with this, because we represent the public. And yet we have current city councilors that have done, in my opinion, attempted to do great damage to the city council in taking away our special permit granting authority. And this most recently happened when the councilor tried to take away our authority to be involved with land transactions. And the perspective is that everything is too slow in city council, and why do you have to argue? But that's not what it's about. It's about hearing from people affected culturally, give them the opportunity to come up to the microphone. I think that's really important that we keep the special permit granting authority right here in this body, because it puts our feet to the fire. So, and I hope, I'm not gonna, I'm not in the business of naming counselors. I'm not in the business of that. But suffice to say, they're on the current board. They want to take away. It's shocking to me that they want to do this, but they want to take away the power. I hope that never happens when I cycle off this board. And those of you that stay on here, hope all of you will stay on here for a long time, that you will retain that authority, because it's so vital. Because it's not about us, it's about hearing from the public. And this is how the public really gets a chance to approach us, Mr. Chair. To the cannabis fund, I cannot tell you how many hours we talked about that. And we always said, if it's in the IG, the cash stays in the IG. Nobody, not one person, Kevin, Linda, myself, Nelson, and Rebecca, that's right, Rebecca, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Not one person said, put that in the general fund. Not one. In fact, we have a cannabis stabilization fund. I have that number, and I'm gonna put it as a communication to the next city council agenda. I didn't have $5 million, as Attorney Bissonette said, but I have from the city treasurer in the cannabis stabilization fund $2.6 million. Now, those funds should be used for the IG neighborhoods, for lack of a better phrase, but that's the Flats and that's South Holyoke. Everybody knows it. Well, we all know that. That's $2.6 million for stuff that, improvements, whatever it is. I mean, you can let your mind wander on that, but the money's there. I'm going to go into another piece, and I'm so grateful that Attorney Bissonette brought this up. Look who's not been sued. Holyoke. You're now here for more than a minute. We get sued all the time. Constantly being sued. But because we wrote the ordinance. Again, Kevin, Linda, Rebecca, Nelson, myself, and then the full board. But we spent the hours and hours and hours here dealing with that. And I think we did it. And Attorney Cunha, oh my gosh, thank goodness we had Carol with us. I mean, vital cog. And look at her now; she's flying high in as a assistant clerk magistrate. I mean, so others have recognized her talents, and so we were lucky to have her guiding us along with all this. And so I mean, I'm not really terribly interested in what other communities do with their cannabis stuff. I know what we do, and I know our track record, and it's pretty darn good. You heard Attorney Bissonette say 72. I didn't even know it was 72, but that sounds about right. And I mean, who's sued us? I don't think so. So hopefully, you can chew on that. Again, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to get wishy-washy and say, I'll think about it down the road. But I will think about it down the road. But I don't want to be wishy-washy saying, well, why don't we try it now? I don't think it's ripe enough yet. I think there's still stuff to be done in IG. Now, this committee can recommend, and I hope we move this out of committee and move it to the full city council. I really want to take a vote on this. But, because again, we have nobody from the public here, not one person. So, look, I think we've been proven, we're not perfect, but in this particular case, what did we say all those years ago? Where is the investment not happening? Well, it's not happening in South Holyoke, and it's not happening in the Flats. That's why, that was the argument we made, we meaning me, but ultimately we got everybody agreed. That was the argument we made, because how else are we going to get any kind of investment there? So anyhow, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Real quick, in response, I guess, the first piece, I think there's a difference with like the Cannabis Stabilization Fund, right, which soon will be non-existent, according to what it sounds, right? So if we want some teeth to be invested in these communities, it should be coming from the tax revenue that is being paid by cannabis dollars. So if ideally the plan was to take care of these communities, we would have outlined it in the ordinance that a certain percentage of tax revenue, not community impact funds, that is no longer going to be used, or we might not even be able to use these dollars. If we really want to support these communities, you align it as a line item in the budget, not rely on community impact tax dollar funds. And they're not even tax dollar funds, they're host agreements. So once these host agreements, once the system changes, these communities are no longer have access to these dollars. And technically the definition has changed, so right now it sounds like we can't even invest these dollars in these communities in the way that you guys originally had intended. So we're back at square one with these people in these communities who are still not getting the fair share with regards to that piece of being invested in those local communities at the end of the day. So if we wanted to have teeth with it in other communities, they took a certain percentage of the revenue that comes from the businesses and taxes, and they itemize it to go to specific pieces in these communities, especially socially equitable communities, right? So the Cannabis Stabilization Fund is not a fund that can help support the community in the long term, and might not even be able to help the community in the short term, right? The piece around the public hearing, right? If we host another one, I promise you, there will be people here to oppose. I will go visit the church, and I promise you, there will be people from Ebenezer here to oppose. It wouldn't even be an issue. So that's the one piece, right? Just like I think that when we're talking community, right, we always do this, and we refer to our communities in the lower wards not coming out to speak up, right? And it's kind of unfair to me, because if you look at the voting numbers, there's around 2,000 people that can vote in those communities, and we average about 200 to 300 people that come out. So if we come to say that no one comes to public hearing, if they don't come out to vote as much as they should, what makes you think they would come out to speak out on certain topics? There are some that are brave enough, and I 100% kudos to them that do come forward and speak up and muster the energy to come to the front here and speak on that microphone. I've done it before. It took a while for me to get to where I'm at today. It's not an easy process for certain people in these communities. Some people were raised on this. Some people have a background, a history, that their family members or that their cousins or friends or someone that they know has gone through this process, so they understand that. But in our communities, that's not a normal thing. It is not a normal thing. It is now that we have people that actually reflect that community that are speaking up and that are leading right now. So I guess in the future, that argument will stand to hold in like 10 to 15 years when we have more people from these lower wards that are more involved. But right now, we're growing that, and that's getting to that point. Right. And then the economic impact for downtown, right? If we're saying that you expand and you open to different pieces, most of the people that come downtown to cop or to buy, they wouldn't go up to the mall area or to Westfield Road or to the Northampton area, anyway, Northampton Street, Smith Ferry. I'm learning the language. I'm sorry, I didn't grow up there, so like it's new to me. They wouldn't go up there anyways. The people that are coming to shop in downtown are coming from the opposite side of the highway. Why would they continue to go down that way to a further distance to pay more in price when the competition is downtown? Everyone is competing with one another, and if you know economics, you know that competition makes the price goes down. So if the competition is already significant in the downtown area, why would you shop somewhere where there is no competition? You're gonna pay a significant more in pricing, and you're not gonna get the same quality if you understand the way economics works, right? So ultimately, yes, you can think or say that it will pull business away. It's a different demographic that would shop over there in the Kmart Plaza area. It's a different demographic that would shop in the mall area. It would be a different demographic in the Smiths Ferry area. Those people normally wouldn't come downtown anyways, for the most part. So like, it's not that we're gonna cancel out the business that they're growing. What's happening downtown, I'm gonna be honest with you, it can't be stopped right now. It's a moving locomotive. There are a variety of different entities that are interested in our downtown area. Not only the state, but there are a lot of nonprofits that are working in the gateway cities that are working towards helping Holyoke be successful. How long? It won't happen overnight. How long will it take? Who knows? But at the end of the day, I think that where we're at with this piece of legislation is it's run its course, being in one particular part of the community. Manufacturing can stay in IG. That makes sense. Totally makes sense. But retail, come on, man. Like, if you're driving down Main Street, it's all you see. It's everywhere. Half the people that live in the community, and again, I live in the community. I'm out there all the time. Well, I don't live, my presence is there on a constant basis. And yes, they appreciate it, they like it, but at the same time, there are the comments on like, damn, another one, like in this area, in this neighborhood, like when are they gonna put one up the hill? When are they gonna put one up there? That is the comments that I hear in the communities. So I understand that no one is here, but I feel like I'm one of the higher vote getters in 1 and 2, and there's a reason for that. So I will speak my piece, and I will stand my ground too as well with regards to this particular order and trying to expand it, because if we keep pushing the can down the road, how long then? I don't understand that piece. Councilor McGrath-Smith?
Am I correct that what Attorney Bissonnette said is that since this is all flowing through a special permit process and we're allowed to spot zone, that it would be possible for us to, as council, make choices to expand, say, for example, to the Kmart Plaza without having to change ordinance?
No.
I don't think you can. Attorney Bissonnette, can you clarify on that?
Sorry, my nimble fingers hit the wrong button. I think you'd have to have the zone change, and it would definitely be a spot zone. For example, at the Kmart Plaza or in any of the smaller buildings that serve as retail along Northampton Street. I'm thinking of the Craze type buildings. So you would have to have that property itself subject to a zone change. Once that would be approved, then a special permit could be sought for that. But you're basically seeking two things from the same body. So there may be a way to join those together. But a zone change is pretty specific. You have to notify the abutters. There are a number of other things that will go into that in terms of timing and notices. So it's up to the council to determine if you want to consider any type of cannabis operations outside the IG, whether it's lab or retail. That would be probably appropriate to have more discussion on, and then determine if there's an appropriate place in the city that you might want to include as a kind of a test case rather than just look to expand it citywide. I'm not sure if the Northampton Street retail area is what is being thought of here, but there certainly is a way to define that geographically. So on that, whatever your pleasure is in terms of defining the areas eligible for cannabis operations, and then which operations under the four categories are allowed to seek a special permit in that zone, may be one way to approach it. So I might, I think I'll stop there, and I think that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think for me, Attorney Bissonnette, where's the planning committee throughout this process, right? So let's say we wanted to move forward on this. I understand that we are the body that creates legislation, but for me, do they opine? Do they help us or work with us through the process, or we're just taking this ourselves?
The council is to seek input from all the departments, including planning and economic development, engineering, for issues like site surveys and stormwater management. So all the departments are notified and they're requested to file their comments. On a zone change, I believe, last time I looked, we had to obtain a review or recommendation from planning board before acting on a zone change like that.
Thank you. And then before I recognize you, Councilor Bacon, let me give Jeff the floor because he got his hands raised.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure you're aware that because this is a zoning ordinance change, the planning board did open their own public hearing on this last night.
Okay. So, all right. Then that means they're not done with it yet, right?
That's my understanding.
So then it sounds like we should be tabling it to keep it open, the public hearing, until they're done with theirs. Am I correct in assuming that, Jeff?
I'll check in with them to see what they did last night. I would expect they hadn't closed it that quickly, but I'll follow up with them.
All right. And then Councilor Bacon. Councilor Bacon, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I had to unmute.
No worries.
So I was going to give you the information that Jeffrey just provided because I saw the public hearing on the agenda for the planning board last night. And we are able to keep our hearing open if we choose. We can close our hearing if we choose. However, we do need to wait for the planning board recommendation before we can take an action relative to the full city council.
Thank you. So, unless anyone else has anything else to add, Councilor Jenny Rivera.
Thank you. So I would echo what Councilor Rivera said, being the Ward 1 City Councilor, and not only that, knowing a lot of people in Ward 2 as well, and that's what I constantly hear, another one. So it's going to be marijuana Ward 1 or marijuana Ward 2. So that's all I continue hearing. And the flats being in as well as Ward 2. I'm losing all these buildings now. There's a lot of homeowners that are actually interested, and they're listening to the meetings. They might not be on Zoom, but you see them on. They're listening through channel 15, and they're very interested. And if we were to make meetings, they're gonna start coming because they're very interested. And like I said, yeah, they would come to meetings. And a lot of people are just not happy with so many cannabis down in Ward 1 and Ward 2 only. That's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rivera. And then I guess entertain a motion to table the public hearing and continue it to a further date.
Well, what's the date?
Jeff, can we do it not the next one, but 2 weeks from today? No, 2 sessions from today.
27th.
27th of March? You're a beast. You got it quick. So March 27th, Jeff?
Yeah, that's 2 meetings from now.
Perfect. So entertain a motion. That's okay as long as we have 4
Second.
or 3. So entertain a motion to table the public hearing, continue the public hearing until March 27th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call? Yes or no?
Because we have vacant on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Councilor Bacon?
Yes.
Councilor McGrath Smith?
And we have to say 6:30 to be precise.
Okay, 6:30. All right. At 6:30, Councilor Bacon,
Yes.
Councilor McGrath Smith,
Yes.
Councilor Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Councilor Bartley,
Yes.
and Councilor Rivera, Israel Rivera. Yes, 5 yeas. Then we go on to the next one.
Motion to take forward to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 4 was filed by Councilor Murphy-ROMBOLETTI, Councilor JOURDAIN, and myself. Order that the position of Crime Analyst be created and added to Ordinance Schedule A. With us, we have the documents. I believe it's the job description, as well as the ordinance. I'm looking for it right now. I have some questions, I believe, but I don't see anyone here that could answer them. Councilor Bacon, go ahead.
I have a question also, because I'm interested to understand how the proposed pay for the crime analyst compares to the pay range for our police officers.
Yeah, there's a couple questions that I have as well. I am not sure if I see Joseph Zerhide here from the police department. So I'm assuming he's here to speak on behalf of this. But if he is, please feel free to chime in and kind of elaborate before we go in on questions. And he is connected. Let's wait till he finishes connecting. Mr. Zerhide? if you're having technical difficulties, then we can, Attorney Bissonette, your hand is raised.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think Attorney Degnan can address this,
Yeah.
this request.
I was just waiting to see if the police or someone from the mayor's office would be able to address before we pass it over. But if he is not if he's having technical difficulties, then let's have Kathy. Kathy, you can go ahead and take the floor and take the lead for now.
Yes, good evening, councilors. Yes, I did draft this ordinance, one, creating the position, and the second one, to put it into section 2-35, which is Schedule A. There is a job description, and that's where the duties and responsibilities came from. I know I received it from the personnel department, so they worked through it. But basically what we have here is, you probably already know, this is going to be a civilian position with varied responsibilities. What you have before you is not the entire job description. I mean, there was quite a bit. I took the salient points to put it in the ordinance, and I made it rather broad because there are parts, responsibilities, and duties I did not put in. Not because they're not important, but like I said, I put in the salient parts. And so that's where the responsibilities, that's where the ordinance came from. And there's quite a variety of duties and responsibilities here. And the qualifications that we're looking for is someone that has a bachelor's degrees in criminal justice, your working experience with computer databases analysis, and then preferably a year's worth of experience in criminal intelligence analysis, and then another one, preferably experience in program development and planning. So I know you probably didn't have a lot of time to look at this, but as I said, it all came from the job description. As to Councilor Vacan's question as to how it compares, and I'm not sure, Councilor Vacan, because I missed part of it. I couldn't hear what your question was completely, but you had a comparison question with respect to compensation. I'll do what I can to answer that question. That's pretty much just a briefing of what you have before you.
Thank you. And Mr. Zerhide, are you with us now or still connection issues? Okay, so
He's showing muted.
yeah. So Linda had a question.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to expand on that while we're waiting?
Well, I want to understand what the officer's pay scale is in comparison to the crime analyst position.
No, I'm with you on that.
I just want to know what the numbers are, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, what's the starting rate for a starting police officer?
Low and high for a police officer, yes.
There we go, Mr. Zerhide. Are you able to answer Councilor Vacan's question?
Can you hear me, Mr. Counselor?
Yes, we're here.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay, perfect. It says I'm still muted, but if you guys can, that's perfect. I apologize. I was trying to log on. It wasn't
No
letting me.
worries.
What was the question?
No worries, it's that connection.
I was wondering, we're looking at the scale range of low to high for the crime analyst position, and I wanted to know what the same numbers are for the police officers, the low to the high range.
Those are contractual through our contracts. We can send those numbers over, though. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The way we got to this number was we've contacted other departments, Mass State Police, who employs many analysts. We've contacted them and looked at their pay scale, and this was in the realm to attract a competitive candidate.
So, as a follow-up, my question would be, did our HR attorney who did the ranking and the rating for the positions within our salary study take a look at this in terms of the ranking of the job responsibilities and grade?
I'm unsure if they looked at it. We did send it over to City Hall, and they have looked at it. I'm not sure exactly who there has and has not reviewed this position yet, though.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Attorney Degnan can help us with that.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Attorney Russell Duperay. He's an outside attorney that handles many human HR questions. And, you know, whether he was in, I think it's likely, Councilor Bacon, that he was. I wasn't in the room, but I think it makes sense that he would have been. I know that I believe Kelly Curran was also working on this. And I agree, by the way, with Mr. For Joe, I'll just say Joe, as I can't pronounce your last name. I don't want to make a mistake. As far as the comparison, Councilor Bacon, thank you for repeating the question for me. Yeah, those positions are not set in the Schedule A. Just to clarify, so they are contractual. They're in the collective bargaining agreement, but we can, I'm sure we can get those numbers for you. But
right, I'm aware that they're not on Schedule A. I want to know how they compare. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we can look at that.
Thank you. Councilor McGrath-Smith.
I know that we have been talking a lot on council about how we make sure that we attract the right talent and keep them and make sure that our jobs are competitive. And I did want to name that I had gone in and looked at Springfield's job description for Crime Analyst because they've had this position for many years as part of their work. And I'm not sure if it came in around ShotSpotter or was even before that. And I compared that job description to what we had put forward in this ordinance and saw a lot of similarities between the two and nothing that's stood out as being very divergent or missing. The other piece that I thought was interesting is, we've named here that, the possible lowest salary is it 58? Does anyone have that in front of them?
Yes, it's 58.
And then what's the mid?
What I have in front of me has low and top. Mid is what? 70,000.
Mid is 70.
And then the high is
82.
And the crime analyst position, there's actually one currently open in Springfield. Their base salary is 62. So it just tells us that we are in the range of what is being offered regionally, which is good to hear.
Thank you. I think for me, I do have a couple critiques with regards to that. Only because with Springfield, when we compare to Springfield, are we comparing to their top crime analysts or are we comparing to their coordinator like crime analysts, like the lower level crime analysts? Because if we're comparing to the lower level crime analysts, it's not the same as the person that's going to be building out and starting something new. Ideally, I think for me, I would rather it say master's preferred. It could still be a bachelor's degree, but I would rather it say master's preferred because this is a position that is a research position. This is not a position that someone just can walk in and learn as you go. That would be the case in Springfield because they already have a system set in place. Whomever is taking this position is building out a new system that has never been had in the community of Holyoke. So someone has to have significant experience in doing this before in the past. I would also expand it from just criminal justice to also a sociology degree because sociologists do a lot of research and some of them specify in criminal justice. So there's a couple pieces here that for me, I would prefer that in my ideal realm, when we're hiring a criminal analyst, the criminal analyst will actually be focused on analyzing the data. Here, there are a lot of things attached to that, but then there are other things that are kind of, I would say, an assistant administrator can help out with, right? But for now, they don't have that, so they would have to take on some of those responsibilities. Totally understand that. But I think if we want this to grow into something meaningful, I think when you start off from the beginning, you want the first person this person has to be a visionary. This person has to see what they want it to be 5 years from now, not just with the chief that's in line, but whoever is the next chief and whomever is the next mayor. So I think that for me, that the bar is set a little low with the pay that is a little bit higher than a lot of other departments. With regards to the requirements, at least. That's my critique of it. I want it. I think we need it because we do need the data. We need to be able to analyze the data so that we can then learn how best to approach public safety in the community. But the data person has to be a data person. Like, they have to really be focused on data. And when I saw the job description, it said at least 1 year experience. That's somebody coming out of college right now. I don't know many young adults coming out of college or whoever that have the significant experience to build out a new position that's being put in place. Kathy?
Yeah, so what I hear you be saying, Councilor Rivera, is that it's the qualifications that, that you want to see strengthened or improved upon. Am I right? It's the qualification piece?
Yes, just mostly the qualification piece. The responsibilities, there are some responsibilities that to me, I wouldn't, I see it as a researcher, right? You have to do this work. There are some pieces that I don't necessarily see a researcher doing, but at the end of the day, this is the first position that's been created. Some in departments, when you build something out, you have to take on some of this responsibilities as a sacrifice because it's the beginning. As it builds out and more things are proven that are needed to be supported, then they can ask for more funding to hopefully get that stuff right later on down the road. But for now, I think the main focus is where the qualifications are. For me, it would be master's preferred and not just pigeonholing it into criminal justice, because there are a lot of other research-based sciences that can apply their skills with the numbers in general.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand, and I agree with you. That's why I put in there with respect to responsibilities, including but not limited to, because it's very possible, as you said, that the duties and responsibilities may broaden. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. I don't think that we want to narrow it too much. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I see with respect to the qualifications, master's degree in criminal justice. We put
preferred,
in there related,
not required, preferred. That way, it gives the flexibility to entertain someone that is a good candidate that does have a bachelor's degree and does have the experience. So I would just say preferred.
We could say bachelor degrees or masters, preferred masters. You know, it's up to you. We could keep the bachelor's. They have to at least have to have a bachelor's, nothing lower than that. But we preferably want a master's degree in criminal justice.
I think for me the wordplay kind of makes sense. Master's preferred, and if you read it right and you know and you're kind of astute, then you're gonna know that I can still apply with a bachelor's degree. Like if you read it, master's preferred. I've applied to many jobs without like finishing up my master's degree because it says master's preferred. I'm like, oh, that's not telling me I can't, so I'm gonna apply. So I don't know what other counselors feel, but just for me, this is the first position, the first time we're doing this. I feel like you got to do it right, because if not, whomever you fill in the role after the fact will have to clean up whatever happened before and then rebuild from there.
Just for purpose of clarification, in there it indicates or related social science. Now, we could keep that broad, or we could be more specific. I think you mentioned another. Another type of.
I mean, it would be better to keep it broad. But right now, what I see in front of me, it doesn't say related social science. It only says bachelor's degree in criminal justice or relevant field of study. Maybe related social science or any social sciences would be different.
Yeah, that's what the ordinance says.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can leave that, but we have to put in the language about the master's degree. Okay, thank you very much for the clarification, Counselor.
Thank you.
Point of order.
McGrath-Smith?
Is it possible for us to move this to council with a recommendation with that amended language tonight, or do we have to table and wait for it to come back to us from legal before we can move it to council?
I mean, we can move it forward if we wanted to. That would be a vote. Or a table for a vote, whichever one. It's whatever the motion goes forward, and whoever seconds, I have no issues. I think for me, it's making sure that a lot of these qualifications get put in, so that way when we're looking for the candidate, that we're looking for a candidate that can help, not only help us just fill the position, but like help us build and steward a process of the future for this position. But yeah, that's the only thing for me.
Okay.
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you. Just through the chair, Kathy, in the ordinance, or in the job description, do we have to show the person to whom this person would be reporting to? What's the chain of command? I don't see how this, I don't see it in here. So is that normally going in an ordinance, or is that just referred to in the job description?
Yeah, that's referred to in the job description. And that's why it's a good question. There are some other things in the job description that talk about skills. Well, I really didn't put all the skills in there.
Yeah.
For purpose of ordinance, what's best is to have the duties and responsibilities and the qualifications and the pay grade. So that's a good question, but the answer to your, no,
Okay,
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, that's good. And then is this job description, what, is this in a personnel handbook anywhere, or is this just somebody typed it up? And, I mean, it looks good to me, but it just how does this job description get enshrined?
Yeah, that is something I don't have the answer to. We'd have to ask personnel as to how that would be and how they would keep it. I'm not sure.
All right. And then in terms of, I have no interest in forwarding something unless it's a final language. So I'm not going to vote for it. So there's that. I mean, I only I want the language to be finalized in committee, so we don't have committee meetings in city council. This is why these meetings get stupid. So if you just kind of, and by the way, the position is brand new. I'm grateful now that we're requiring bachelor's degrees. I would just hearken back to 2 years, or last term, where we had a 12-to-1 vote approving a new job description for the city engineer. I was a 1 because the new job description said the city engineer doesn't need an engineering degree, doesn't even need a bachelor's degree. Isn't that amazing? That's what this body did, a 12-to-1 vote I was a 1, and that came out of this committee. So I'm glad now we're looking for improved qualifications and other jobs. That's somewhat heartwarming to me. But the consistency level is about 0. So look, I'll look for amended language. If you want to put bachelor's preferred or master's preferred, I got no problem with that. I think related social science is good. I think if you try to make this so top heavy with rules and regulations, you're going to end up getting nobody. So I think Kathy, you did a great job with this. Maybe a small tweak here or there, and then send it back to us for the next meeting. That's my take.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. For some context, real quick, that vote that was taken, that was 20%. That was a 20-year experience person. That was the only way that the vote passed. If the person had 20-year experience, that's the only way they can get the job without having any degrees. 20 years experience. That's it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. So I would just like to ask to be sure that the grading of the position has been reviewed by our outside counsel, because I hear that we're looking at the pay scale comparing to Springfield, but when we developed this basis for the grading, it was based on a system that was being used looking at level of responsibility, level of qualifications, education, and a number of other parameters that were also part of the determination of what grade a position would be. So I just want to make sure that we are keeping the integrity of that initial grading document. I'm hopeful it all just comes together fine, and maybe it's already been done, but if we start creating and making grades that don't use the same system, then we won't have a system. So I'm hoping that we could have that information for the next meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Motion table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait 1 second.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Keep forgetting that.
Solicitor Degnan?
Yes, I'm sorry. One question, I just want to make sure, so we have everything together when we at the next meeting. Councilor Rivera, you mentioned something about work experience, that it says,
What I
1
saw,
year.
yeah, what I saw in the email, it had said at least 1 year of
Okay.
experience. I mean, if that's the threshold, I guess. But I guess for me, with a bachelor's degree, I would like to see at least 4 or 5 years experience.
Right.
If
I'll
it's a
second
bachelor's
that.
degree, if it's a master's degree, then maybe 2 to 3, right? But if it's a, and I'm not showing preference. At the end of the day, it's just there's a difference of someone. There's a difference of someone that's freshly out of bachelor's program than someone freshly out of a master's program.
I'm going to raise a point of order. So you just respectfully, you got to make a motion to that effect that you want the verbiage changed. You can't just say it to Kathy. So you need to make a motion with a specific language that you want amended and get it seconded and take a vote on
But
it.
I'm the chair. I don't make motions.
Well, yeah, somebody's got to make a motion on your behalf. I mean,
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
that we amend-
Well, I mean, wait a minute, calm down. So,
Wait. Well, I guess for me, it's calm down because I'm the one running the meeting. So there's too many people talking at the same time right
And
now.
I have the floor because of point of order.
Wait. So
If we're gonna,
it doesn't work that way. I have to recognize the point of order, and I have to allow you to go through the process because I am the chair, and I am allowing you to go through the process. So go ahead.
well, if we want to talk about rules, the chair doesn't go into arguments about, why I took a vote 2 years ago, about 20 years, why, I mean, after 72 straight public hearings with nobody showing up here, I'm going to flood everybody in. That's making arguments. The chair's supposed to run the meeting.
That's pretty much what I've been doing.
Which, you're making arguments again.
I'm only counteracting. Here we go. I'm not going to feed into it. So, on the point of order.
I raised it.
Oh, you're done? Okay, thank you.
I raised a point of
So
order.
you're all done then?
The point of order is raised.
Okay.
So
So,
if you want to amend language, you got to make a motion.
so,
Somebody's got to make a
all
motion.
right, so I'm waiting for someone to make, I can't make the motion.
A chair can make a motion.
Okay, so then I'll make the motion. On the motion that the language be altered to say masters preferred. All in favor? Roll
Aye.
call.
Aye.
Counselor Vacan,
Yes.
Counselor McGrath Smith,
Yes.
Counselor Bartley,
Yes.
Counselor Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Israel Rivera. Motion that,
Yes.
I said, oh my bad, yes. And then motion that the language for required qualifications read that it says any social science field background, and with regards to experience, that for a bachelor's degree, at least 4 years experience, and for a master's degree, at the very least 2 years experience.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Roll call. Counselor Vacan,
Yes.
Counselor McGrath Smith,
Yes.
Counselor Bartley,
No.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera, yes. That passes 4-1. And then on the final motion,
A motion to table.
and then second
Motion to send to legal for.
for
the
legal language.
amendments to come back to committee and table.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Roll call. Counselor Vacan,
Yes.
Counselor McGrath Smith,
Yes.
Counselor Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor Bartley,
Yep.
Counselor Rivera, yes. That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Solicitor Degnan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to take up item 5.
So moved.
Can I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 5 was filed by Councilor Maldonado Velez. Ordered that the city create a housing committee tasked with creating policy suggestions and implementation of Office of Tenant Protections, Office of Returning Citizens, and Homelessness Liaison. Roles and committee to be created by ordinance, while bylaws to be created by the committee. The committee should include at least one of the following: 1 tenant market rate housing, 1 tenant Section 8 voucher, 1 tenant MRVP or continuum of care, 1 tenant of HHA, and 1 tenant representative of local organization working on housing. I spoke briefly with Councilor Maldonado Velez, or former Councilor Maldonado Velez. He asked that we push this, if this possible, we could push it back one more session so that he can come in and public speak and expand more on this. He hasn't had the time to actually come in due to his new role and his new position. But if I'm correct, there is legal language, or they were working on legal language for this. Jeff?
The ordinance is in.
The ordinance is here? Okay. So for
Yeah, you
now,
should have-
all right, perfect. So
Which
for now,
agenda item is this?
item 5.
Because I have a handicapped.
For item 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number 6 on ours.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
So I will entertain a motion to table it for now.
I'd rather not. I just want
Go ahead. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you. And just through the chair to Kathy, did you write this ordinance?
Yeah, I looked at the order, Counselor, and quite frankly, I thought this would be one that we talk out because I wasn't clear in what was being asked, other than we can create the committee, but then I'm like, you know, what is going to be their powers, duties, responsibilities? And as I recall, one of the things that it says is to create an office of tenant protection. I mean, there are a couple offices, and I'm not sure if that's really what they want to do, because you know, committees don't create offices or departments. So I'm not sure if I was misunderstanding what was being asked. So I drafted what I could understand with the hopes that we talk it through.
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend, just for consider, I'm not making a motion, but I will down the road, that, so 2488A, that has to be expanded, and hopefully we'll get some verbiage on that part, because you create a policy that is pretty amorphous. And then in terms of this this body, this committee, I kind of liken it to the Whiting Street Reservoir Committee. It should have a beginning, a middle, and then an end, and with the report. And so something like this, I don't think it should just be in, and that really gives the committee a sense of purpose, and it gives the city council and other stakeholders a reason just to follow up and continue with it. But I don't think this should just be an open-ended, forever ongoing board, but that's my take. And then, and 2489, look, I mean, you got a tenant for market rate, you got a tenant for Section 8, you got a tenant in the HHA. Then you go on to, you got one rep of a local organization who represents tenants. Then you got one tenant who gets MRVP. So, I mean, I think we're hearing from the tenants pretty top-heavy in this, and I'm just wondering if there is perhaps other, I don't really have a recommendation at this point, but I'm wondering if you got 1, 2, 3, 5 of the 7 or so basically tenants. You got MRVP, which is more or less Section 8, so you could do Section 8/MRVP. There's probably there's probably you got market rate tenant, I guess that's private, that's great, and the HHA tenant, you got one homeowner, one landlord, and so, maybe to try to level it out a little bit, you might want to get another landlord, or maybe have Matt Mainville or the executive director of HGC or his or her designee be ex officio, something along those lines. And by the way, that would be a wonderful space to have the meetings too, if you had something like that, HHA. So maybe you want to talk to Matt. So, I mean, maybe when Councilor Maldonado Velez comes in for the next meeting, we can elaborate on all these. As I said the last time, I am very much in support of this, because I think it's needed, but I think it should be modeled after Whiting Street Reservoir, to be truthful. That's really my thought process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Councilor McGrath-Smith.
I absolutely agree with what Councilor Bartley said. Thank you for airing that. I similarly was looking at this and it read more like the mayor's advisory committees in terms of how they were initially established, which is great, right? And maybe it makes sense to have a mayor's advisory committee that's connected to housing, but this is going into ordinance as something connected to city council. So I love the idea of structuring it around Whiting Reservoir. It struck me that rather than being open-ended, it should have a clear timeline of existence where they feel a purpose because they're driving towards something and they know they exist for this year, the end of that year, this report is due. It just, otherwise it will sort of go on without clear purpose and then languish. So, love that.
Well, if I may.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just through the chair to Megan. So the reason we created the ordinance for the Whiting Street Reservoir, because I knew, Mike and I knew, that if we didn't do it that way, nothing was ever going to happen. So that way there is similar to this. If you just create a body with absolutely zero power, it's just going to float and then it's going to disappear into the ether. So now you give them a sense of purpose. And yeah, it probably should be a little kitchen cabinet for the mayor on this matter, and maybe that'll be one of the recommendations that comes out in this thing. I have no idea, but and maybe we should have a person from a lawyer working in Western Housing Court. I don't know. I'm just saying you got to give them a reason to meet, and then you got to try to set some goals in there. So if we pass the ordinance May 1st, try to get a report by May 1st of the next year, something like, you gotta sort of put their feet to the fire. And then one last thing, each member shall be appointed by the mayor. I don't see any city council confirmation here. I can't stand that. So I think that's got to be amended, but that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Solicitor Degnan, I saw your hand was raised for a little bit.
Yes, this is an interesting discussion, and I agree with a lot of what's being said. I think it needs to be fleshed out. And the only thing I wonder about, though, if we're talking about being in existence for a period of time, I mean, there are a lot of ad hoc committees, advisory committees, but they're ad hoc, which means they're only around for one purpose. And when that purpose is done, the ad hoc committee goes away. Usually ad hoc committees are not put into ordinance. That's been my experience. I mean, so I just thought we might talk that a little bit through the next time we meet. Maybe this is something we might want to have a little bit longer. I mean, I guess we have to flesh out the purpose to figure out what the term would be, I suppose. That makes sense. That's just my 2 bits.
Thank you for making that point, Solicitor Degnan.
One more thing.
Yes, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, so that's very common in law. So you have a sunset clause. So, and by the way, it can always get amended, right? So, I mean, I don't think that's a big deal.
Thank you. So, on the motion.
A motion to table?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A roll call. Councilor Bacon.
Yes.
Councilor McGrath-Smith.
Yes.
Councilor Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Councilor Bartley.
Sir.
Councilor Israel Rivera. Yes.
May I make a motion to take agenda item 6 off the table, please? And that's that.
I hear a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 6 was filed by Councilor Carmen Ocasio. Ordered that a handicap sign be placed in front of 799 High Street for Francisco Rivera Chevere. Placard PL 1770918. And with us we have Councilor Ocasio. Would you like to expand a little bit on this handicap?
We had a little problem with Francisco Rivera. The spot that he was talking about, it was not in front of 799 High Street that he was talking about. He was talking about the 79, the building's right here, and then on the side, there's a parking lot next to the building, but right there, there's just a spot for one car, and they already got the lines. So that's the spot that he wanted. It's not in front of 799, because you put it right in front of 799, you can't put it there because it's right in front of, like, the front of the store, and it's like right on the main road, kind of. So it's really on the side, so.
Point of order, so this is not accurate.
Yeah, what I would recommend is that we put in a new ordinance or a new order for that exact spot. Is the spot on public property, or is it on private property?
No, it's on the street. The spot that he's talking about?
Yeah.
It's on a spot like a parking spot, regular parking spot.
It's a public parking
Yeah.
spot.
Jeffrey said to,
I got Jeff there. He just raised his hand. So let me,
let
Jeff.
Jeffrey tell you.
Yeah, so the application is the address of the person applying for it. The spot is just a little bit askew of where the resident lives, because it's the closest spot to the building, because there's a bump out right in front of the building, because it's at an intersection. And Don from Disabilities looked it over. He called me with a couple of questions. Counselor OCASIO followed up with the resident, and we were able to kind of work out the details.
That's good then. So then we're okay with leaving it as 799 High Street, even though it's not going to be at 799 High Street?
Yeah, well, it's in between 799 and the building next door. So the address on the application is just where the resident lives. So that's just kind of the format that it goes in.
Right. And the only reason why I'm questioning it is so if ever we go to remove it, we have to remember that the sign is not in front of 799 High Street. It's a little further down, and so we got to keep track of that information. Counselor Vagan?
Yes, so the legal form will have the exact location. That's what
Okay,
will go in the
perfect.
ordinance. So it should work out okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, roll call.
Roll call. Counselor Vacan.
Yes?
Counselor McGrath-Smith.
Yes.
Counselor Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Counselor Bartley.
Yes.
And then Counselor Israel Rivera, yes.
Okay, and then relative to, I'll make a motion that we suspend our rules. We package 7 through 19, that we offer abbreviated reading for all of these. In other words, you don't have to say the maker, just say just generally what it is. And once we do that, then we give each of these leave to withdraw.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? First reading is order that an ordinance be created to allow wind turbines for residential use. The second is order a zone change to Huluk marijuana's ordinance be adopted to extend the time from 2 to 3 years that a special permit so granted may exist until it lapses. See op-ed. Order that a zoning ordinance 4.4.6 location of accessory structures be updated to align with zoning in our neighborhood municipalities in an effort to allow more flexibility on residential lots. Order to amend Huluk zoning ordinance to reflect the following: 54, a zone change for BG for the parcel 091000062 and 091000063. Order to amend, the next one was order to amend the Huluk zoning ordinance to reflect the following: section 7.213, 7.2.13, amend text by adding the BG zone to others currently listed. Next was order to amend the Huluk.
12?
Yeah, 112.
Yep, we're at 12. I'm doing abbreviated. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, just making
More
sure.
abbreviated.
Yeah, it'll be more. Okay.
Just rattle through it.
Yeah. Order to amend the Huluk zoning ordinance to reflect the following: section 7.2.13. Oh no, I already said that one. I got lost. We're at 12. Order to amend the Huluk zoning ordinance to reflect the following: section 4.3, amend table to allow motor vehicle sales in BG by special permit. The next one is order to amend Huluk zoning ordinance to reflect the following: create a new special permit for allowing the non-conforming use in a historic structure in BG zone. The next is order that the city council reviews section 7.10 marijuana facilities to ensure that the review process is business sensible and that the review process for obtaining the special permit is being adhered to by ordinance. Amendments to this section may be proposed and approved as part of this discussion. I'm sorry, I forgot that there is translation, and I'm speeding up. I have to actually slow down a little bit for translation. Stay abbreviated, but don't go fast. The next order that the city council add a section for battery storage facilities to the zoning ordinance to reflect technology advancements and future need for installation. And then 16, that the city council review section 5.3, special permit to exceed height limitation in order to allow increased building height for all uses in additional zoning districts. 17, that the city council reviews section 6.4 signs in its entirety in order to make changes to the existing ordinance to further refine and streamline the signage regulations. The next one is order that we create an ordinance to allow backyard hens in residential zones. And the next one is, the final one is that the city revisit previous legal language to create an ordinance allowing backyard chickens in residential areas in an effort to enhance food equity. All of these orders have expired due to zoning orders not being addressed on time, so they are up for disposal. So this is what we did. Now I'll entertain.
Give way to a draw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have to do roll
Roll
call.
call.
Roll call. Counselor Vacan,
Yes.
Counselor McGrath Smith,
Yes.
Counselor Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Counselor David Bartley,
Sir.
Counselor Israel Rivera, yes. And then on the motion,
To adjourn.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You guys have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.